Okay.
I'm here today, Duane Betts, and he is the man. He has his legacy precedes him, and his legacy goes on beyond where he is currently at. And I cannot wait to be talking with you today. This is really exciting for me, and my producer was more than ecstatic that he got you on the show today. So thanks for being here. Let's chat some good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. And that was quite the introduction. I don't know if I can live up to that, but yeah, man, it's good to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So where are you right now?
I'm in Jackson, Wyoming right now. In Jackson
Nice.
Hole, yeah.
And you're about to kick off the tour there, right?
Yeah. We start the tour on Friday, and I actually live here part-time. I'm here at my place, so it's pretty convenient to start here.
I was gonna say, so you still are in Florida and you're in Southern California, is that correct?
I'm not in Southern California. I kind of grew up a little bit out there, back and forth between there and Florida, and my mom lives out there, and a lot of my friends live there. So, but I don't have a place there now. So I kind of switched that out with here. I met my wife here, and she's lived here for quite a while. So, um, and her place was nicer than mine. So we got rid of the place in in LA.
Hey, Wyoming's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a pretty spectacular place. I mean, I like it in the summer a lot,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. I mean, because I'm from San Diego, I lived in LA, lived in Santa Cruz,
Mhm.
but when I try to tell people about Wyoming, it's kind of hard to put into words how actually, like, I don't know, how beautiful it actually is. And maybe we should keep
Mhm.
that under wraps. Maybe don't try to get all those LA folks living
Yeah.
out there.
Don't tell anybody.
So tell me about this tour. Tell me about what you're gonna be doing. You're gonna you got some new music coming out at some point soonish.
Yeah. So I did a record down at my friends Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi's spot in Jacksonville, Florida. Um and we've been we've been really proud of it for quite a while now. It takes a long time to put out a record, so we've had it done, and we're extremely proud of it. I have a lot of great people on it. You know, great musicians, and all the way around. I'm super proud of it and super excited to put it out. We haven't announced it yet, so I can't say exactly when it's coming out, but it'll be out this summer. Um, and yeah, we're just doing a little West Coast tour. With This is the first time I'm using my band name Palmetto Motel, which is kind of a cool thing because I wanted to give the band identity instead of just using my name, because I have the lineups kind of can rotate depending on if um I mean, right now I'm just kind of going through like the normal stuff of like, well, this drummer is booked already. I don't have like a firm drummer for every tour, but so the lineups can rotate a little bit, but it's going to be really great. I have some great people playing with me, and yeah, and we just look forward to having fun and traveling and seeing some cool places.
Yeah, what's that like? So it sounds like you're kind of trying to make your Duane Betts project into more of a, I guess, a solidified name in some other aspect. So where do you usually find these
Yeah.
musicians, or like what's that process been like?
Well, on this tour, I have Johnny Statula with me, who's from Allman Betts Band, and we worked together before that, and I've known him for a long time. We're basically guitar partners. I have Pedro Arevalo on bass. Normally, I have Berry Duane Oakley on bass, but Barry had some things he had to stay in town for and couldn't make it. So Pedro is somebody that I've played with in my father's band I played with him for about 10 years, and he's one of my favorite cats to play with, and he's always awesome and brings a lot to the table. So he's on this run. And then I have Vincent Fawcett Jr., who's a really great drummer from LA. He's doing this run with us. And then I have keys on some shows. We couldn't do the keys on all of it, but yeah, and then Charlie Overby is opening up the show's solo. So I don't know exactly where this is, but he's doing all the California shows. So yeah, I mean it's a good lineup, and we're gonna play some songs off of the new record, which is really exciting. We'll probably play 3 or 4, and then just the normal, some stuff that I wrote with Allman Betts Band, and some stuff off of my EP that I put out 4 or 5 years ago, and then some cool covers and stuff that you might recognize.
Hell
And that's
yeah.
the deal. That's, you just go out there and kind of change up the sets and get some new tunes happening while you're out there, and get a thing happening, and then you get pretty tight, and then it's done.
That's how it goes, and then on to the
Yeah.
next one. Yeah. um so I ask a lot of people about their upbringings, where they came from,
Yeah.
and I would say most people don't quite have the same as yours, and you probably know that. When did you, let's talk about this really quick, we got it, just for anybody who isn't listening. You have quite the famous dad, and you have been in the music scene since you basically just popped out, and
Yeah.
you are around doing that. When did you kind of know that you were in some sort of different league, or some sort of different realm of, like, a kid? When did you realize that your life was maybe a little bit different than the typical kid? I'll put it that way.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I knew my dad played guitar, but I wasn't really, I mean, I never really thought of it, I mean, when I was older, I was growing, was in Malibu, and I mean, I mean, frankly, my dad was not, as far as his talent and his, contribution to music or anything like that, but as far as like fame, I mean, he wasn't like way up on the totem pole, comparatively to like some of the, you know what I mean? Like, but we didn't really care about that anyway. But, we like Rod Stewart or Ozzy Osbourne or somebody like that, But when I was little, I just knew he was a guitar player, and I knew he went out and played shows, and I didn't think of it like, he's just my dad, and I wanted to play drums, and he got me a drum set, and started playing drums when I was really young. And then, then I went on tour when the brothers got back together in '89 for the 20th anniversary tour. I went on tour for a couple of weeks, and I fell in love with it, and I've always loved it ever since then. So,
What made you want to play drums? I'm asking selfishly as a drummer.
just that it was easier than trying to have somebody put your fingers in strange places on the, well, that sounds kind of weird. Um, you know, it just seemed a lot easier just to bang on stuff than have to make your fingers stretch to make guitar chords. And
Yeah.
so I played drums, and then I switched to guitar when I was 12 or 13. But I think a lot of guitarists it's fairly commonplace to, to start out on drums and switch over.
Yeah, I feel like any guitarist that even has like kind of a lick of understanding of drumming, even if they can just play, the one beat that everybody should be able to play on drums, like, you're instantly a better guitarist. That, I might say that,
Yeah, I
you got
mean,
that
the
rhythm.
rhythm. I mean, there's rhythm, and guitar. Rhythm's a big part of it. So
Huge.
yeah,
It should be, I
yeah,
feel like if you can hear a guitar player play by themselves, and they can keep in time and all that good stuff, then
yeah. Any music rhythm is a big part. I should have said, but
we're really getting down
yeah.
to the nitty-gritty right now. I guess that's some important stuff we're talking about. Yeah. Well, that's rad. So, like, was your, I guess, like, what was your mom like in this whole entire picture? Like, what was it like growing up on that sort of side of the road, I guess, or just being on the road?
Well, my parents, like many people, I mean, they separated when I was a little younger. So, but my stepmom was with my father, and I was homeschooled, and through the high school years I was homeschooled. So I grew up on the road, and I mean, they didn't tour a lot in like the winter.
Hmm.
It was more like a spring, obviously a summer thing, but the spring and maybe a little bit in the fall, and the winter was always off. So I'd have my tutor come to the I was living out in the country in Florida at the time with my dad, and the tutor would come there, and we'd have school, and then play guitar for
Yeah,
8 hours a day, and
yeah.
just so
How
yeah.
how often would you how many hours a day would you say you were playing guitar back when you were first starting out? It's probably about 8 hours a day, or like I
uh,
just in general,
I
like
mean,
what?
I don't know, I didn't really keep count, but more than enough, probably 4 to 5 hours a day, maybe more sometimes.
Damn,
I mean, if you're playing the records and you play through the whole record, you know I mean,
that's
I
45
don't know,
minutes to an
maybe
hour right
maybe a
there.
couple, maybe not that much, but a lot, enough.
Yeah. And what kind of drew you into even wanting to play music? I mean, obviously you were around it a lot, but like was there something about it that you were like, I like that, or you saw something and you're like,
It seemed like
that's
a natural thing. It just seemed, I mean, it was kind of brought to me. It was around me, and it was brought to me with the guitar. I mean, my dad had a little ukulele, and he tried to show that to me, and I kind of was over it and wanted to play drums. So, I mean,
yeah.
um, I don't know. It was just kind of a natural draw, I guess. I mean, it was all right there. So,
What were some of the first albums you were playing along to?
oh, on drums
Or anything.
or on
Yeah.
guitar. Um,
Anything.
Well, guitar, I mean, I would crank up the stereo and play really loud because I was out in the country. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, the drums are loud too. So, I mean, I'd put my Walkman on. I'd play from everything from like Iron Maiden to like The Who, when I was in like fifth grade, fourth, fifth grade. I was
Yeah.
playing to those because then when I switched to guitar, like eighth, like seventh grade, I was still playing drums. And then when I was like 13, 14, I switched to guitar. That's when I moved back to live with my dad and start homeschooling. That was like around the time that happened.
Yeah.
And I was still playing drums, and I was playing with some friends in a band, and we weren't playing out, but we'd rehearse on the weekends. They'd come over, and then we'd take breaks, and then I started picking up the guitar during the break. I just started notice that stuff started coming a little easier to me. So then I switched over. But then yeah, I mean, then I was playing to um I don't know. I mean, everything from like, Jimi Hendrix um to Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins, the stuff that like was kind of current at the time. But I was getting into a lot of different stuff. I was getting into jazz. By the time I was like 14, 15, I was getting like a lot of blues records and jazz records, and, you know, um checking out like sitar music, and
Yeah.
kind of trying to listen to everything.
Who this is a two-part question. Who do you think was your favorite drummer, most influential? And then at that time, who do you think was your favorite guitarist, most influential?
Well,
Drummer first. Drummer first.
the drummer, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing because, well, I really loved when I was like 11 and I was playing the records. I mean, I loved um I mean Nico McBrain from or Brian, whatever.
Yeah. From
And
Primus.
no,
Yeah.
from Iron Maiden.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the drummer from Iron Maiden, was fantastic.
It's amazing.
And I like John Bonham and Keith Moon probably,
Mhm.
and Billy Cobham was a hero. Billy Cobham was like a hero of mine, but that came right before that, before I got elevated to like Mahavishnu Orchestra. Lars Ulrich was like a hero of mine, which I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but like, I loved Metallica, and then it was like 6 months later I got turned on to Mahavishnu, and started like, listening to the Dead and like all kinds of other stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's funny how 8 months can make a world of difference.
especially back then when you're like first starting out, it's like,
Yeah, you're just 1 minute you're into, I was into all of it the whole time, but you kind of discover things along the way. All of a sudden Billy Cobham's brought into the picture, when that was like, that's a big piece to bring into the fold, of discovery.
yeah, he's amazing. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, and then obviously guitarists who were like, let's go first. Like, who do you think like the first guitarist you were listening to that you were like, okay, that's the shit. Like, first one, maybe not the best.
Oh, I don't know. Well, when I was super young, I I mean, Eddie Van Halen was like, who was like when I was like 6 years old, 7 years old. I mean, but no, when I was playing guitar much later, I mean, I was Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, obviously Duane Allman, and my dad's stuff, and Jimmy Page, and I mean, all the blues guys, BB King, Freddie King.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of them.
They're just,
But something about Eric Clapton's playing with Cream um, really stood out. I remember that.
yeah,
Jimi Hendrix. I mean, obviously Hendrix,
yeah, absolutely.
but then I mean, but then I was Kurt Cobain and Billy Corgan were like, that's what was happening, and that had just come, that whole scene had just come in, and it had been the hair band kind of thing. So that was radical. I mean, that was a radical shift in what was happening in
Yeah,
pop culture.
and I'm a huge Pumpkins fan myself, and I know you are as well. Like, what are your favorite sort of riffs or songs or anything like that you kind of like maybe picked up off on, or something you like to play along to from the Pumpkins back?
Soma, the solo in Soma is my favorite.
Yeah,
His solo in Soma would be my favorite. I mean, I love the Cherub Rock riff. I mean, I you know, Rhinoceros is cool. I mean, all that stuff is really great. I mean, I discovered that when I was like 13. I mean, I saw it on, do you know what 120 minutes is?
no,
It's a show on MTV that came on, and it was like alternative. It started probably in the late 80s, and it was like college kind of alternative. But anyway, I was watching it. It was like Headbangers Ball, but not metal. It was, um, and Matt Pinfield, I think, hosted it.
hmm.
At least for a while. But anyway, that's where I discovered Smashing Pumpkins. I was in Malibu at my mom's friend's house, and we were staying there, and it was on late at night, and I saw this band. I saw the video for Siva or Shiva, however you pronounce it. And I was like, because that, Jimmy Chamberlain was like a fantastic drummer. So it had all of these things. It had the aggressive guitars, kind of like a Black Sabbath influence, but then it had this, this really interesting drummer. And then it had this kind of emotional, kind of Cure, kind of, Robert Smith side of it. And yeah, and I was like, whoa, this band is really cool. And then I went to Tower Records on Sunset like a couple days later and bought it. And then I just got like, I got really into it. But yeah, I mean, that's a big deal when you're a teenager and you know, you discover a band like that.
Yeah,
But, I mean, I was listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I was listening to tons of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and a ton of other stuff too. I wasn't just like listening to Dinosaur Jr. But I was listening to a lot of that kind of 90s, like early 90s alternative, whatever they call it, like shoegazer, um
yeah.
band out of England called Swerve Driver. I was really into.
Hmm.
That's a little more obscure, but a really great band.
Swerve Driver.
Yeah, really great. Go look them up.
Yeah, I haven't checked them out. What was the name of your first band? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, my mom had a in fifth grade, or fourth grade, when I was playing drums. my mom had a poster of Tivoli Gardens, and and we call it Tivoli, and we named our band Tivoli.
It's a
And then
good
we
name.
changed it. Then we changed it to we changed it later to the Swarm, like a swarm of bees. And then the other bands after that, I forgot. This
Yeah. What were your first shows sort of like? What were you playing? What were you doing? Like when did you first start playing
like
shows?
professionally when I started playing like professionally. Well, I mean, I was sitting in with my dad's band when I was like
Oh, of
15,
course.
16. But later I first professional band was probably 97. I was probably 19. Out in Los Angeles, me and Berry Oakley and Waylon Krieger and our buddy Alec Piro on drums. And it was it's called Oakley Krieger Band because they started it and then they offered me a gig. So um that was cool. That lasted a while. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a bunch of them, but
Yeah.
that was the first pro. That was the first pro gig I had.
That's rad. That's the way to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we had a residency like every Tuesday at the Coconut Teaser on Sunset, and we actually were getting some paying gigs on the Sunset Strip, which is kind of unheard of. But um,
yeah, it's mostly pay to play over there for the most part.
yeah, I mean, we did some stuff at the House of Blues, and then my band right after that was kind of more long lived, and we did a record. Um, it was called Backbone, and it became Backbone 69 because of a copyright thing, and that was
Was that a joke? Like, I mean, that's
no, it was because
hilarious.
yeah, no, we probably shouldn't have named it that because of the because of that, because we didn't mean it like that. Well, we kind of thought it was funny, but no, just Chris, our leader was born in 1969. So
Gotcha.
it was trendy at the time to add numbers at the, you know.
Gotcha. Like, I feel like it's like pretty trendy right now to have like an all caps name
Yeah, probably. I like
from what I've seen.
I'd have to see the see examples of what you're talking about. But
Yeah, I think it's even younger than my generation, you know.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's what's going right now.
Mhm.
Um, what is I mean, did you always think you were just gonna be into music? Is there any other things that you were kind of thinking about at the time, or any other interests that you kind of had growing up?
No, I had interest in stuff.
Like what?
I really liked keeping up with, you know, like numbers, like being on the road. I was really always curious and fascinated by how many tickets were sold and what the final numbers were and the counts going in and that kind of stuff. And I still am, but um, no, I never really, I just kind of stayed on that course. I mean, I know it sounds kind of boring that I never really wanted to do anything else, but I just kind of always was on that course, I guess. And there
Yeah,
wasn't like a lot of pressure to do anything really. Of course, later when you like are an adult, then there's pressure to like, you know, try to make money to live and stuff. But no, when I was growing up, there was never any it was never like a big, it's kind of a big decision, I guess, but it kind of evolved naturally, you know.
it just made sense.
Yeah.
Like you're saying earlier, it's like you know, your dad is not like the well, Barry Manilow or any of that shit. He's his own person, and you're your own person. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I kind of want to go. I want to talk about this like other stuff because I feel like in most of your interviews, people just go off of like everything else that they've heard about you and where you
Yeah,
came
I mean,
from. And I'm like, I want I want to hear about I want to hear about you. Like I want to.
yeah, yeah.
uh,
No, man, I'm down to to
Let it all hang
put it
out.
all out on the table.
Was there, well, okay, you said it. Was there any sort of expectation that people kind of wanted of you being, you know, basically in the aura of the Allman Brothers Band? Was there, like, when you were kind of growing up or starting to get to like maybe ages 18, 19, 20, or people kind of expected you to be a certain way? Was there anything like that? How did you deal with it? Did you just not care? Did you care? Do you know? Does that make sense?
No, I don't think anybody had any I mean, my family is always just supportive. Like, I mean, if I wanted to play, like, I mean, maybe if I was like in a punk rock band, I mean, my dad would be like with surprised or something. But I mean, he's
What sort
pretty.
of music do you listen to that he maybe wasn't super into, or like what's something that you just maybe just
I
kept to
mean,
yourself?
I've had a few discussions and listening sessions with hip hop to kind of explain like the difference between like real hip hop and kind of like what you think it might be, which is it's that too. But I mean, I'm a big hip hop fan,
Yeah.
so I mean, some of my favorite music from an early age was also like, Run DMC and you know a lot of that. I mean, of course, the Beastie Boys, when that came out, we were bumping that in the neighborhood
Yeah.
constantly. But yeah, I'd sit down and I'd play him a couple different MCs, and he's like, "Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like a horn player. He's kind of swinging behind." I was playing him some like raw, like Jay-Z stuff, and he was like, yeah, I like that one better than that one. That's he's kind of laying back on the beat like a horn player, like." It was like a late night kind of, we might have been a little intoxicated, but the uh the discussion was fascinating to hear him like recognize uh I mean, not that he doesn't, he's not a rap fan. He's not gonna throw on like,
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Clan when he gets in the car,
Yeah.
so so it was kind of funny.
But I mean, to be like his generation growing up with like a certain thing, and then him also being part of a very influential generation, and then obviously you grew up, and then you have your own like Beastie Boys and all that stuff. When that comes about, it's like you kind of need to explain to somebody else why it might be kind of important that they might listen to. So that's pretty right. I've definitely had those kind of you might say drunken nights with my dad, trying to explain to him why Kendrick Lamar is actually pretty good. And
Oh yeah. Well,
and
Kendrick's like kind of a genius, um but yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny to think about it like that, but but he got it, he gets it. Yeah.
yeah, seems like a pretty fucking open-minded person in general to not just write it off
Mhm.
right away. Yeah, you're still close with your dad, right? I mean, you still play with him, and you, yeah,
My father,
yeah,
he's good. Yeah. He's chilling.
he's
He's
chilling.
retired.
He's
Yeah.
retired.
Yeah.
Is he in Florida now?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's rad. Just playing his old music away. I'm sure he's pretty stoked for your next album to come out as well. What is how did this? So where did you guys record this latest album again, or where? Like, what was the
We
process of it?
recorded it at Swamp Raga Studios, which is Derek Trucks, Susan Tedeschi.
Yeah,
Uh, you know who they are. Um, it's their play. It's on their property, like at their house. It's like it's a really beautiful space. It's sounds great. I mean, everything about it is just really amazing, and they're such kind people. And it was just really an honor to be able to record there, because there's not a lot of records recorded there other than theirs. Um, so it was kind of a special thing, and we did a lot of the writing for it at my dad's house, and then I wrote some of it actually during the pandemic here in Jackson Hole. Um, that's where it all started, and then we had we were at a birthday party down in the Keys. It was a friend of ours, and they were actually hired as talent. It was a duo, Derek and Susan. It was quite an amazing birthday experience. But so during that time we were down there, and I had a conversation with Susan, and she's like, yeah, I was telling her I'm thinking about doing a record, you know, And she goes, yeah, you should come record at our place, come up to Jacksonville. So that's how it all started. And it
Yeah.
just kind of went from there. It was like a natural progression. We finished the songs at my dad's house, got them together, and went in, and we had Tyler Greenwell from Tedeschi Trucks Band. He Falcon, we call him. He played drums on it and was just fantastic. And John Ginty on keys, and Duane Oakley, Johnny Statula, and myself. That was the core band. And then there's some really great guests on it. And, I'll kind of save that for when I announce it. But,
Yeah.
But Derek is one of them. I'll say that.
Well, it's how did you record basically, I guess, your first EP? How'd your first album? Do you usually do like kind of a live setting? Do you usually do like kind of multi-track? How long do you spend on like certain aspects of it? Like what are you looking for when you get into the studio? Is it based off the producer, or do you have an idea in mind that maybe like I want to do this song live, or I want to do the song based off of a click? What is
it boils down to, yeah, I mean, the producer, just the people that are in the room that have the ideas, that are supposed to have the ideas put forward. I mean, somebody might have an idea to do something to a click. I mean, we tried one thing to a click on this record, and then we ended up not using it, but we tried it to see. And the song had more life. It had a life of its own without the click, without it being kind of held to a cemented in. But sometimes, I mean, for certain things, yeah, click is great. But no, we recorded this live to 2-inch tape. So it's, I mean, all of the tracking is, I mean, there's stuff that's overdubbed that wasn't recorded live but the band's playing live on all of it, and then some of it maybe some of the solos, maybe I can beat that solo, I go back in and get it. And then the vocals, I went back in and spent a little more time on the vocals, but the process was pretty much, I mean, that was kind of the vibe, was just let's get in there and work the song out and get comfortable. I mean, of course, everybody had demos of the songs, but we'd never played the songs together before as a unit before we were in the studio. So but when you have good musicians and capable people working with you to record it, it doesn't take a lot of time usually, but every now and then a song can take all day just to rework it to make it what it becomes. And one of the songs on there called Under the Bali Moon, it's actually an instrumental, and I had a bunch of different parts for it. And Falcon kind of, when we got in there and we were playing it, he had the parts in the demo, the acoustic demo, so that he had been listening to. But when we started playing it, he basically took it all apart. There's a word for that. He basically deconstructed the song, and then moved the piece he liked and said, yeah, but that piece that you do there, you need to keep doing that needs to recur, to be a recurring part. So, and then get rid of that, that's not as cool, get rid of that, and really trim the fat. And then we spent all day with different feels, and we did this really slow thing that was like, felt really good to just totally switch what we had been doing. But then we listened to it and it was like, God, this is everybody's gonna fall asleep, let's just say that. So we went back in, and then he came up with this really cool beat, and then we knew we had it. We were like, okay, that's it. And then we got it. So it took literally, 10 hours of messing with it to finally figure out like what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that's
that's
I
cool.
mean,
I mean, that's part of the process. Some of them just are like, you might do it a few times and have it. And the other ones you might do it 6 times and then go back and listen to the first one that was not even like there's a song on there called the opening song is called Evergreen, and we the version of it, the take we used was actually before we were rolling tape. It's Pro Tools, because it was so early on, we didn't think we were going to actually get a take. But that's cool when that happens. You do it like 5 6 times and you're like, well, that's cool, but let's go back and listen to that first one. And that was what happened with Evergreen. So
I love that, especially when you feel like when there's like zero pressure on it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it always feels like there's a little pressure because it's like, but yeah, I mean, you get really comfortable after you get one, then it's like, okay, we got this. We're playing really well together. We're totally comfortable now. So
Yeah. Do you would you say you prefer recording or playing live? I think personally I like playing live a lot more, but I had some amazing moments in the studio. But what do you think? Do you have a favorite preference? What do you like or don't like about either?
um I mean, I love playing live. I love the energy of the crowd and the transfer of energy, and playing outdoors in the summer is amazing. So I mean, the studio, I really like the studio. I love it, but I'm not quite as experienced at it. I mean, I'd like to, just have free range to just like go in and mess around and just keep recording ideas and experiment with stuff rather than, okay, we have a record, we're in here from A to B, and we have to do these songs. But I love writing, recording something and seeing it come to life is one of the most fulfilling things that you can do. So I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough question.
Yeah, I feel like there's a obviously it has to be a yin and yang to it because
Mhm.
one does not go without the other now, especially now since I mean shows probably I think for the most part they don't pay nearly as much as merch does, but like there's the whole ecosystem of being in a band and actually making some money and being able to put more out to your fans is it's like dance you have to drive and but it's cool. I mean you're also aware of numbers and how that all that stuff fits together. So it's pretty interesting to hear you kind of riff on all those thoughts you have there.
Yeah, man, I'm just riffing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's cool. I'm really looking forward to putting it out and just like hopefully people like it. I mean, anytime you put out a record, I mean, you're a musician, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you make something and you put it out, I mean, it's like, you hope it has some impact to where people are like, there's so many records come out and people are just getting inundated with so much information that it's like, no, I mean, you just hope it makes a little difference, but if it
Yeah.
makes people happy and makes them smile, then I mean, that's your job's kind of done,
I did a lot of session work during COVID because I happened to have a studio at the time. And yeah, some of those albums that I recorded drums for people on, they went out there just because people were like hungry for new music. Like it was some of the biggest stuff I've ever put out. And even though it was some of the quickest stuff I ever made, just because I was in the studio all the time, but it was really cool to actually hear people be like, yeah, you made this week less shitty than the last week.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, good. You just made my week better by hearing that. Yeah, Downtown Runaround. That song is fucking amazing. Like
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a cool riff. It's kind of a boogie. It's
yeah,
kind of
and
a tongue-in-cheek kind of boogie, you
and
know.
I love the way the drums are recorded on. I love the whole atmosphere and the sound of it. It really sounds like you're in the room with like this very like rich sounding presence. And
Yeah, the thing with that is we recorded that. That's my friend Antoine on drums, and that's at the Compound in Long Beach, which is his studio in Long Beach, California. But yeah, he played with Mark Ford from, you know who Mark Ford is, right? From the Black Crowes and from, he's played with a lot of folks, but uh that tune was one of the last that we recorded. And Antoine just started playing that kind of drag beat, and then I just came up with the riff over it. And then I wrote it with my friend Stahl, who I write a lot with, who's basically like my writing partner. We I took it to his house, and we came up with the chorus and everything. But the interesting thing about the EP is that that's just kind of like miscellaneous different sessions from different years. I mean, I kind of threw all of that together to put something out. And I had these demos that I thought were good. But I was like, oh, I can beat it. And then I would record it again. And I'm like, man, there's something about that other version that I really like taking time. And then later, closer to when we put it out in 2017, I recorded Downtown Runaround and maybe Think I'm Doing Well. And so some of the stuff was recorded like maybe as early as 2012 or 13, and some of it was recorded more a couple of years later, and then some of it was recorded probably 2017, like right before we put it out. So
yeah,
it's kind of is, whereas this new record, this is like a real record where to have all the songs, we go in, record it, and yeah, it's cool. It's just interesting.
yeah. So there's a billion different ways to skin that cat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What is there a going off of that now? Big segue. Is there anything you could kind of demystify about the mythology behind rock and roll? And is there anything that you would say is pretty on the spot as far as like rock and roll, especially like kind of growing up around these people who were, I don't know, larger than life characters to a lot of other people, even today?
Well, I mean, the thing about being around that stuff is we didn't really think of it as a big deal. We just thought, oh yeah, Greg,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, and I mean, you get around that stuff, and yeah, I mean, there's the issues that come with rock and roll. There's drugs and people getting, missing shows, and fights in the band. There's drama in any family. And I don't know. I mean, I know I've been through a lot of stuff personally. I mean, I think that if you're a musician, it's kind of easy to fall into the trap of that lifestyle, because I mean, for me, naturally, I mean, I'm in recovery, and I had to like quit doing everything because I was basically like hopelessly addicted to drugs for a while. But when I was younger, it just seemed like, I mean, that's what my heroes do. They get high, it's just part of the deal. And just seemed like a natural just like, it kind of, it was wrong, but it kind of felt right. And then you end up in a place where it's like, okay, this is like this has gone too far now. Like, how do I get out of this? And it's really hard to get out of. But like Keith Richards, the genius that he is, he said, it's an easy club to join and a really hard club to leave. Meaning, Willie, my dog just barked. Meaning, it's easy to get into it, and then it's hard to quit, because you're in the trap. So, but I mean, a lot of the stuff we were doing was just kind of like family, like it was just a good family vibe with everyone, with the crew, and it wasn't like, they don't run everything, like, it's not it's a big deal, but now that I look back, I mean, but there were, we weren't like flying around in private jets, and there weren't, I mean, we weren't even staying at the Ritz-Carlton, we were staying at like the Sheraton and the Crown Plaza and the Hyatt, I mean, we stay at some nice places. I'm not downplaying it, but it wasn't like Jimmy Buffett or, where he's like, so um, but yeah, there was some heavy stuff that was going on, and you're around that, and you kind of there's some scary stuff that happens when you're a kid and you're around that, but without getting into specifics about who or what, or what they were doing or anything like that. I mean, that's not, like, why bring that up? But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's a heavy thing to be in a band for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Those guys go through a lot, and they know each other and have all kinds of experiences that, um, well before I was even a twinkle in my dad's eye. So what, right, or what think I know anything about anything,
Fair enough. Yeah. Um, yeah, and also, just being in a band, it's like you're doing such an emotional thing. You're making music. You're like extremely close to somebody by making music, and then also you're in a business with them, and then also we have to constantly see them, and you're kind of ostracizing yourself from a lot of other aspects of life that are more traditional or normal. So there's a lot of tensions. Who were on a lighter note?
Yeah.
Who were some of the people that you were around, kind of like first starting out, that kind of like encouraged you? They weren't just necessarily your parents. Was there anybody kind of like a teacher or anybody that kind of encouraged you along that you maybe would want to shout out, or is there anybody
Well, my
along that
friend, my two best friends at the time when I started playing guitar were my buddy Casey O'Donnell, who actually is no longer with us. Bless his soul. But he was a really great guy, and me and him kind of would keep in touch all week. Oh, did you hear that? Man, I've been listening to Albert King, Blues Power, the live record, and it's have you been listening to that? And then he'd be, listening to Magic Sam, and we'd be keeping in touch, like, on the phone, about what records he was listening to that week, because we wouldn't see each other during the week because he went to school and I was homeschooled and I was out in the country. So on the weekends, that's when we would reconvene and kind of like share what we had listened to and play together and learn tunes. So Casey definitely was like a big part of helping me, and I helped him, become a better player, on both sides. And then also my friend Clint Hall was another, like, us, the three of us were kind of all coming up together, and during my formative years as a guitar player, kind of teaching each other and discovering together. So those guys were were pretty pretty big influences, as far as just having fun, discovering stuff and learning more and more and more and more, um you know and going into into the right direction of, being a musician, hopefully. But
That was the idea, right?
yeah.
Well, hey, I ask every single one of people I interview on this show, whether it be a chef or an artist or videographer or whatever, I always ask them the same thing. What is your idea of success for yourself? What is your idea of success? What do
Just
you think it should be?
making art that you're really proud of, that is what you want to do, and getting it across to people, and just, being able to make a living if you're not making a living at it, then it's like what does Kevin O'Leary say on Shark Tank? It's like it's not a business, it's a hobby. Like, you need to take it out back and shoot it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think you have to kind of make a living doing it, but that's success. I don't need to make, $1 million a year. I if I put out stuff that I dig, and I'm just getting it out properly, and everything's being done properly, and it might you might sell out arenas and headline festivals, or you might just grow to a certain point and stay there, and that's cool too. But yeah, it's just about happiness, which making art that staying true to your values, being authentic, making art that you stand behind. That's what success is. And then you gotta make a living. Gotta feed your dog.
Yeah, maybe that's why the dog's barking at you right now. It's like, get on the road. Well, hey, this has been really, really nice talking to you, man.
Yeah, man. I
This has been
really
a pleasure.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed riffing a little bit.
Yeah, it's so we like to do on the show. It's I like to just kind of like break down, ask what other people aren't necessarily asking. So thanks for sticking with me there.
I love it, man. Good
All
deal.
right, well, hey, I'm very excited about your upcoming tour, your upcoming album. You are playing, let me pull it up really quick, playing the 24th in Jackson, 26th in Boise, Idaho, 27th, Bend, Oregon. Then you're playing Felton Music Hall, Felton, California. And then you're playing the Mystic Theater in Petaluma. You're playing April 1st in SLO, San Luis Obispo, and then Ventura Music Hall second. What?
Slope.
Yeah, Slope.
I was shouting out. I was doing a shout out there.
Well, you
notice that how it's really like when people say shout out, but really it's a shout out. In hip hop, they say shout out, but then like when the newscaster lady on like Good Morning America got a hold of it, they turned it to shout out. Like a shout out, I guess, would be like, hey Jenny, like that's a shout out. But I want to send a shout out. I want to send a shot out, and it's like put your gun up and send a shot out. Yeah, that's what.
Hey, well, you're Jesse. You need to get your little 6-shooter out there. I know you have one around. It's like, well, shout out to SLO. Now I know that. I didn't know that. Shout out to SLO.
But I was sending a shout out to SLO, or a shout out. Either way,
it's a beautiful area. I love it over there. Santa Cruz was my first love. But
yeah, I have a lot of friends that went to school in Santa Cruz.
Yeah. No, you're gonna be playing in Felton.
A lot of sharks.
Yeah, you're gonna be getting to Santa Cruz, right? Dude, they are decimated right now. I just moved to New York, but it's their power's out. All my friends' places constantly. It's got those atmospheric rivers. They're not used to that much rain over there.
Totally. But anyway, get more of the dates. Come on, the Venice West.
Hey, you know it. Just kidding. You're playing Venice West. The 3rd, April 4th, but Happy Harriet's.
Happy and Harriet's.
It's the
Coach House down in San Juan Capistrano.
Yeah, the 5th, and then last but not least,
Tempe, Arizona.
Yeah,
and And then we're in Utah for 2 days, I thought.
Oh, that's as far as my little list goes on here.
Well, whatever.
Well, hey, look at we're looking at the internet right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, Marquee Theater. That's as far as I go. So if anybody's listening for any of those, go check them out. And now you know what a shout out is. You know what a shout out is. And yeah, man, it's been super fun. And I hope you have a great tour. And I can't wait to hear the new album.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me, and hope to see some of y'all at the shows.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah, any shout outs to your any shout outs to your fans out there listening right now?
I mean, if I have fans, then that's great. So I love you.
So you're there first, folks. All right,
man. Thank you so much.
Duane Betts, thank you so much. You have a great night.
Yeah, brother. You too.
All right, bye.